All right, fellas, this will be the week 6 power rankings video. This is my favorite video type that I do, so pretty excited for this one. Before I get into the rankings themselves, I wanted to mention two quick things. These rankings were made Wednesday night before the Bengals and Steelers game yesterday night, so those performances from yesterday night will not impact these rankings. And then also the individual player rankings that appear on the left side of the screen. When we look at the individual teams, those are done by average and not total points. You guys have seen me do those recently. It just makes more sense with the buys. So looking at the overall rankings here, there is quite a bit of movement. The high riser in these power rankings is Colt 45s, moving up 4 spots. The big drop was Sam's team dropping 6 spots. He's on a 5-game losing streak, 0-3 in his last 3. So some other things to look at here. My team and Colt's team were the only teams to score more than 400 points in our last 3, and I was able to go 3-0, the only undefeated team since the last video. So jumping into the individual lineups here, we have MAGA Kitchens at number 1. Number 1 for the 3rd straight power rankings video. His team has just played fantastic this year, and he's had to deal with minimal injuries, so everything's pointing in the good direction for Cal's team. Caleb Williams has done great while Lamar's been out. Bijan, fantastic performance this past week. Quinshon's been solid RB2. JSN, home run hit. Portland Sutton, returning great value for where he was picked and where he's playing. And Cal did lose David Njoku recently, but could be a spot for his team to improve in the future. And then Roma Dunze has been great as well. Cal also has a very deep bench, and he hasn't made a trade yet, but he definitely has some ammunition if he wants to look to make a move. So at number 2 is Mahomes Magic Show, my team. I had a fantastic last 3 games, largely supported by waiver wire ads, and most people I would expect assumed that I would be at the number 1 spot. But again, the past performance of the last 3 weeks is only 80% of how I make these rankings. You have to take into consideration your upcoming performances. So there's a lot of injuries that I'm dealing with right now, and a lot of players will be out on bye. So I'm expecting this next stretch of games to be relatively rough for my team. But looking into my team here, Patrick Mahomes, looks like MVP Patrick Mahomes. Josh Jacobs has had a fantastic last 3 weeks. Rico Dowdle has been great. Amon-Ra St. Brown has also been great. Sterling Shepard and Christian Kirk, those guys are just fill-ins. But George Kittle coming back is pretty exciting. And then on my bench, like I said, Emeka Egbuka has an injury for this week, and likely he's going to be out 3 weeks through the Buccaneers bye. And then James Cook is also on bye this week. So my team's overall produced great, but could be a rough next couple of games here. At number 3, we have Colt 45s. Colt's team has just been steady the entire season, putting up a very, very respectable amount of points. Jaden Daniels, great fantasy quarterback. You can see he's projected 28 points this week. That's a little bit, I guess, tinted from the Dallas matchup. But Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, you can see both top 5 running backs. Just great way to build a roster. And then DK Metcalf has exceeded expectations with the Steelers, and Jalen Waddle now as the Dolphins are the Dolphins wide receiver 1 with Tyreek out. Kyler Warren and Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara, both rookies that have really lived up to their preseason hype. So, and Colt has a few solid pieces on the bench. T. Higgins can pop, Marvin Harrison can pop, and J.K. Dobbins is a solid running back 4, I guess. But I would expect Colt's team to continue to play well and continue to climb in the standings. So just really confident with Colt 45's season outlook here. At 4, we have Team Elyaderani. Since the last Power Rankings video, Grayson has been very active in trades. He landed Baker Mayfield. He landed Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Matt McConkey. So a lot of moving pieces with this team, but Grayson's team has continued to perform well and just is filled with players that you are confident in having great finishes to the fantasy season. Baker Mayfield, kind of touched on him in the trade video, but there's really no negatives with Baker Mayfield. I mean, his entire offense is out right now, but the feeling and expectation with Baker is that he's still going to come through. Jahmyr Gibbs has had a rough stretch here recently, but still a great offense that he's in and great player himself. Jordan Mason, he could take a hit with Aaron Jones coming back soon, but he looks to have at least won the running back one job for the Vikings. Tedoroa McMillan continues to improve as the season moves along. Just had a 2-touchdown game here recently. A.J. Brown has looked better, though the Eagles' offense has looked worse. So that's still a bit of a question mark. Trey McBride is pretty close to performing to where he was drafted to at this point, but you still hope for a little bit more out of him. And Ladd McConkey just recently had a very nice game with Quentin Johnston being out. So Grayson also has Joe Burrow and Derrick Henry on the bench. Not the deepest team, but Grayson has really committed to the high ceiling. A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry can have very big games if game script goes in their favor. So overall, just capable of scoring a very high amount of points week to week. So solid outlook for Grayson's team for the rest of the season. At 5 here, we have TaylorMade, Alex's team. Struggled in the last 3 games, going 1-2, but a lineup that is just very, very solid. Aaron Rodgers filling in for Josh Allen. Had a great game last night. So that was a nice hit for Alex in free agency. Cam Scatterbo looks to be the RB1, even with Tyrone Tracy coming back for the Giants. So should continue to be able to at least serve RB2 production. Jonathan Taylor, great hit that he landed in that trade with Kerr, projected 25 points this week. Just that's exactly what you want out of your running back one. Rashee Rice, Alex should be pretty excited about that. Rashee Rice is probably a top 7 or 8 wide receiver that I would want in fantasy to finish out this season. Quentin Johnston looks to be Justin Herbert's number 1 target still, even coming back from this injury. Tight end has definitely been a rough spot for Alex. He's tried a bunch of different options. This week, Cade Otton looks to probably be the Buccaneers' number 1 receiving threat with all the injuries. So could have a good week this week. Breece Hall, pretty volatile with the Jets. I mean, it's tough owning a Jets player. Garrett Wilson as well. It's just been kind of frustrating, but Alex on the bench here with Puka and Josh Allen, 2 of his top 3 players. So overall, a very, very solid team. Just had a bit of a rough stretch. I would expect Alex's team to be higher come the next power rankings. At 6 here, we have Ihop Challenge. Tim's team has done very well in the last 3 weeks. He continues to show that he can score a very high amount of points, but also a very low amount of points. Jared Goff has been serviceable so far. Ashton Jeanty has been the Raiders' best piece, especially with Brock Bowers being injured. Kenneth Gainwell is filling in for Amarian Hampton while he's on IR. He looks to be on IR for likely longer than the 4 weeks, so going to need some solid play either out of Kenneth Gainwell or another flex option. Devontae Adams has a very high ceiling with Puka out. When Puka returns, he's pretty reliant on that 30-yard touchdown week to week. Xavier Worthy definitely taking a hit with Rashee Rice coming back. I don't know that Xavier Worthy is going to be fantasy startable moving forward. Tucker Kraft has been a great tight end as well. Looks to be one of Jordan Love's favorite options when they get near the end zone. Javonte Williams has been a home run pick and should continue to perform well as long as the Cowboys continue to have a high-paced and highly productive offense. Looking at Tim's bench here, his wide receivers have cooled off a little bit, and he's usually been running with Bo Nix at quarterback, but he's also had a rough few games here. Overall, Tim's team has shown that he has that high ceiling, and you really don't want to be facing him week to week, but overall, Tim's team is definitely in it moving forward. At 7, we have I Have Given Up Kerr's team. 1-2 in the last 3 games. I would say Kerr's team does not have the same aura that it usually has. Usually when you see you're facing I Have Given Up, you know you're in for a rough week, but this year been a little bit more beatable. So looking into Kerr's lineup here, Dak Prescott has been fantastic. Brian Schottenheimer has surprisingly worked with the Cowboys. The offense has looked really well, especially George Pickens taking over with CeeDee Lamb out. But Kyren Williams looks to probably have a slightly higher fantasy outlook with Puka out, but just overall good running back and a good offense. Kamara has been pretty all over the place this year. He really hasn't performed that well, but at the same time, there's a lot of trade interest in him in the NFL, so maybe he moves to a new team, who knows, but he's kind of an underperforming running back this year. He does get CeeDee Lamb back this week, which is a big boost to his team. Got that Dak Prescott stack as well. And then Nico Collins, underperforming, I guess, for where he was picked, but you would expect him to continue to do better as the Texans continue to improve their offense. Travis Kelce is returning starting tight end value. And then Keenan Allen also has been having a really good season for as old as he is. Looking in the Kerr's bench here, he's had to deal with a lot of injuries. Chuba Hubbard should be coming back this week. DJ Moore's in the hospital, but might be playing this week. Still waiting on the Matthew Golden breakout. Joe Mixon out. Justin Fields, another Jets player. You're mad if you didn't start him and he scores 35, but he could also easily score 7 points. So Kerr's team's definitely still in it moving forward, and just overall solid roster. At 8 here, we have Big Papa, Cluss's team. He's made 2 trades since the last power rankings video. Definitely given his lineup some life. He split up that Eagle stack that he had with Saquon and A.J. Brown. So diving into the roster here, Matthew Stafford had a rough week this past week, but has overall been a solid fantasy QB this year. Saquon Barkley is returning that historical rate for those that group of running backs that has 400-plus carries in a season. So RB16, right on pace where you'd expect him to finish this year. Rachaad White just filling in while Bucky Irving's out, but a great fill-in option at that, especially with how many injuries the Buccaneers have. Deebo Samuel has been a bit of a surprise this year and a solid fantasy option. Drake London had that big game this past week. And just as Michael Penix plays more, probably build a bit more chemistry there. Sam Laporta returning starting tight end value. And Chris Olave, he landed Chris Olave in a trade. Just basically a shoe-in for 13 to 15 points every week. Looking into Cluss's bench here, just a bunch of big-name players that you really don't know what you're going to get. I could read off every player here, and it's just the same thing. Like they could score 20 points or they could score 6 points. So Cluss's team definitely showing some life since the last power rankings video. So, the league's wide open. So at this point, Big Papa definitely still in it. Definitely with the moves he's made, capable of making a playoff run. At 9 here, we have Lisan-al Gaib, Joe's team. Had a bit of a low-scoring 3 games here. So Justin Herbert, rough 3 games. Tony Pollard has lost some workload. Tajay Spears return. Jaylen Warren and Jamar Chase, those guys had great games Thursday night. So that's something exciting to look at moving forward. Terry McLaurin also optimistic that he will return this week, but also a nice piece moving forward. Then you can see Joe has to go double tight end this week. If you look at his bench, he has a second, third, and I believe 4th round pick all hurt right now. So just for Joe's team, he really needs to get healthy, because if Joe's lineup is healthy, he really does have the firepower, especially with Jamar Chase looking how we did last night, to make a championship run. So for right now, I have Joe at 9, but I could very easily see Joe moving up the rankings come week 9. So at 10, we have greatest ever Sam's team, losing 5 in a row. That's how you wind up at the bottom of the power rankings. But overall, I feel like Sam has a lot of good pieces on this team. They just really need to put it together at the same time. He's had some pretty solid weeks, just not enough to beat the teams he's played. Drake May has looked really good. Basically, everybody in this lineup has looked really solid this year. Like I said, it's just putting it together. The one hole there, Ramondre Stevenson, has been pretty down, but ETN has been a solid player. Justin Jefferson. George Pickens has been fantastic when CeeDee Lamb has been out. Honestly, good enough to the point where he's probably going to get more work than he would have before the CeeDee Lamb injury. Jake Ferguson's the tight end 1. DeAndre Swift just had a big touchdown run this past week. And I said it in the last Power Rankings video, but DeAndre Swift will be as good as the Bears are. So as the Bears offense continues to improve, I think DeAndre Swift will continue to be a great fantasy running back. His bench is pretty weak overall. He does have Darren Waller down there and Jalen Hurts as potential pieces to move to make a trade for a stronger flex option. But 1 and 5 looks rough, but truly, just with how the league has broken this year, he's still in it to make a playoff run. Looking back at the rankings here, there's now really 2 tiers of teams. That first tier includes MAGA Kitchens, Mahomes Magic Show, Colt 45s, and Taylor Made. This group has shown that they can score a high amount of fantasy points consistently. And then everybody else is in that second tier where they've shown that they can score the high amount of fantasy points. They just really haven't done it week to week. So That's all I have for this power rankings video. The only other announcement I do have is anyone that's interested, if you're not interested, no worries at all, not a big deal. But if you are interested, me and Alex are going to try and put together a mid-season thoughts video where you are welcome to give your insight into your team, the league, the playoffs, projections, really anything you want to talk about. So with that being said, the next video should be the Intel video on Monday for week 7. So that's all I have. Thank you guys.